We're live, Madam Chair.
All right, good morning. This is Senate Health and Welfare. It is May 2nd, and we're looking at a couple of things. First, we're going to look at H222, a further proposal amendment from the House, and their plan, the House's plan is to act on it with all remaining stages of passage. I don't know whether it's today or tomorrow, but we're going to do that. Yeah, it's on their calendar, so today. So Katie, and just to say, I've read through the amendment. Ruth, Senator Hardy read through the amendment, and I think we agree that it is it's fine. But I thought it'd be great for you, Katie, to walk us through so we don't miss anything.
Sure. That Katie McZen, Office of Legislative Counsel for the record. I'm joining YouTube, or no, I'm joining Zoom. I'm not joining YouTube, but I guess that's what happens by default. Okay. Here we go.
Should go.
Thank you. There we go. So this, looking at this amendment, as you know, whenever we look at instances of amendment, takes a little bit of juggling back and forth between documents. So what the underlying document that we're looking at this point is the Senate proposal of amendment. So this is what what we anticipate will be coming over from the House. Their first instance of amendment sort of undoes the change that you made by referring in the definition of recovery residents using persons in recovery and instead using the word tenants. Why? I can talk about that a little bit. Just because they've chosen a different phrase, persons in recovery, doesn't necessarily mean that individuals would not have landlord and tenant rights in that relationship. And the committee had a conversation how it was maybe misleading to not use the term tenant when it was anticipated that those rights would still attach.
Okay. So in the conversations that I've had, I've heard that it really won't matter which term we use, but tenants seem to be preferred by some. So I'm
Okay with it.
Yeah.
All right. This definition is sort of lifted not out of context, but there's a whole bill on recovery residences that spelled out that there was it was a landlord tenant relationship, and there was a contract that parties could enter into for specific rights that never passed, but this definition sort of got lifted out of there. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, the second instance of amendment. So the next two sections were amending the drug checking language. So first in the definition section, the House has added or will be adding the definition in subdivision 45, approved drug checking service provider, to mean a provider who complies with the operating guidelines developed by the Department of Health. And then we have our drug checking section itself. And so even though this is a stray call, I cut and paste the whole section in again, just so that for ease of reading. But in subsection A, our change is after the word chapter.
what line?
I'm on page 2, line 7. Yeah.
Okay.
Where we're referring to an approved drug checking service provider, because that is the term of art we've just defined now.
Okay.
So we're using that term throughout. And then similarly on line 12, it had said an on-site community drug checking service. But now we're saying on-site approved drug checking service providers to be consistent. The next changes are in subsection C. And this has, I don't want to say it's been completely rewritten, but there are some substantial changes. The second sentence is entirely new.
Where low triangle we are now?
We're on subsection C, page 3.
Okay.
So the second sentence is entirely new. We're on line 8. We're updating the name approved drug checking service provider And after provider, that language is new, only as necessary to communicate drug checking results to the person. So basically lines 8 to 12 are, that's new language. So it reads, in operating a drug checking service, personally identifiable information may be collected from a person providing a controlled substance to an approved drug checking service provider, only as necessary to communicate drug checking results to that person. Personally identifiable information collected solely for the purpose of communicating drug checking results shall not be retained or shared by an approved drug checking service provider.
Okay.
Our next change is in subsection E, so that brings us down to page 4. Line 7, we're updating the name approved drug checking service provider. And then the language starting on lines 12 to 17 is new. So after the word chapter. That's new. So it would read, an individual possessing a regulated substance and who provides any portion of the substance to an approved drug checking service provider pursuant to this section for purposes of obtaining drug checking services shall not be subject to arrest, charge, or prosecution for possession of a regulated substance pursuant to this chapter or civil or administrative penalty or disciplinary action by a professional licensing board for a violation of this chapter based on the individual's use or attempted use of drug checking services in accordance with this section. The immunity provisions of this subsection shall apply only to the use and derivative use of evidence gained as a proximate result of an individual seeking drug checking services and shall not preclude prosecutions to the individual on the basis of evidence obtained from an independent source. Next, our changes in subsection G on line 1, page 5, we're updating the name again, an approved drug checking service provider. And in division H1 on lines 4 and 5, that sentence has been rewritten. So the department shall provide technical assistance to and develop operating guidelines for drug checking service providers.
So what you've done is really embedded the changes they've recommended into the language that's there. So this whole 5 pages isn't new, but rather the rewritten last H1 and then the new additions that we identified.
Exactly. There are so many sort of like insert this here that it just would have been too confusing.
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful.
Easier to read this way. Okay.
Any questions for Katie? Or did you want to?
There are 2 more instances.
Okay, go.
of
Oh, yeah, you're right.
amendments.
Sorry, you get ahead
Thought
of
you could get rid of me that easily. Okay, so the third instance of amendment is amending the opioid abatement special fund. We had a lot of conversations about how the advisory committee would get its recommendations to the General Assembly in the process. So they've accepted your change of striking out language being part of the budget, annual budget submission, but they have added language that says that the items on the list from the advisory committee have to come to the General Assembly annually on or before January 15th.
Okay.
Last one, in subdivision 3A, this is where you're appropriating money from the opioid abatement special fund. There was a reference to within syringe service organizations in subdivision 3A, and that was removed. So this was the 1.976 million to fund 26 outreach or case management staff positions within the preferred provider network and within syringe service organizations. So that's where it's struck. And my understanding is that it was accounted for somewhere else.
Right,
So
that's
that's
it.
part of the budget.
It's in the budget.
Teresa
Thank you.
mentioned something like that to me at the rationale, I was not sure.
I didn't hear you.
That's what it was explained to me, but I can't confirm that.
Okay, yeah, it was put in. We moved all the syringe services into one $200,000 appropriation.
Okay.
$400,000 appropriation, excuse me, because it was 240 and 160, so it all went together. So this would just confirm that that was happening. Questions for Katie? We good?
Sounds good. Thank you.
So we probably should have a straw vote or vote to concur with the proposal from the House. It's really clarifying language. They've done a little bit of organizational stuff with the definitions and then put it in place.
I'm good with it.
You're good with it?
Yeah.
You good with it? Okay, and Ruth is good with it. I don't know about Senator Weeks. She had to leave before I saw her. So, I'll just say we'll concur with the further proposal amendment that's coming.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Katie.
I have, an issue was brought to my attention regarding, H 171 with yes, hello. Before you leave, which is now in appropriations, but the question that was brought to our attention by the Community of Vermont Elders was the one that said that that there's a linkage. There's not a linkage. There is a linkage between one's disability and malfeasance.
Yeah, there is a linkage.
That's what you put in your amendment.
We put it in that there is a linkage. Cove would like that to be separated.
Oh,
Or separated or removed?
So I'm just saying that it is now in appropriations. I may be bringing us a recommendation. That's all. I don't think we're ready to talk about it, obviously, but good, just so you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, and then we have, is Ameren available before 11, or should we take like a 10